So our speaker today is somebody who is, what I like to consider a pillar of our community. Yeah, it's true. When you're looking for a volunteer, when you need somebody to do something, somebody says, yeah, I can do that. And I really appreciate that. And I know she has great wisdom to share with us. It's Ruth Jackson.
Just in case, we're going to have that for support. Just in case, we're going to have these. I'm losing my shawl. I think it'll scoot. I don't know where the camera can see it. Is it in there? The volume of my mic? Okay. So I'd like to borrow some words from Reverend Jan Morgan, and I hope something I say resonates with you. The theme for January is will. I was told that after I wrote my talk. And so I went back through the talk, and I thought, you know what? It's in there. So you have to listen for it. So the topic is loneliness versus onlyness, Onlyness, another one of my made-up words. Last time it was communication versus communication. Well, now we got loneliness versus onlyness. So no doubt we've all had lonely moments. I've had a couple of devastating ones. But I've also had only moments. It's only me, but I don't feel alone. About a year ago, I saw a Facebook post, and this man says, 10 years ago, I met a man in his 70s on a train to Kerala, and I had to look that up. It's in India. When I asked if he minded traveling alone, he said, I'm not traveling alone. I'm by myself. I always remember that when I'm eating out by myself or doing anything without companions, it changes everything. Then not long after, I saw oh, maybe I didn't. Yep, there it is. Alone and lonely is not the same thing. I turned to the Daily Word on Monday, July 29th, and it said, today I remind myself God is always with me. I am never alone. There's a deeper truth underneath the things I know, and I am part of a much bigger picture than I can see. The concept of loneliness versus onlyness had been on my mind for a while. Odd how the concept kept popping up, mostly on Facebook. The concept, I've talked before about being a CARF surveyor, and in short, I go to agencies in the United States or Canada, and I stay for 3 days, and I get to know all about them, and I write a report. And I'm saying that because I do that generally alone. So I travel alone, I eat at restaurants alone, but I never feel lonely when I'm on those CARF surveys because I'm fulfilling my life purpose. I'm doing what I like to do, I'm enjoying myself. And loneliness happens when you feel an absence or a void. In times of loneliness, you can turn things around by changing to a state of onlyness. How do you make this come up a little? Just tell it to? Okay. It's only me, it's not lonely me. Let's define the state of being lonely. It's not usually thought of as a positive state of being. However, states of being aren't positive or negative, they're just states of being. If you say to yourself, I'm going to get a cup of coffee and read a book, that doesn't sound like loneliness. That sounds like self-care. While defining the state of being lonely, let's talk about when and where you might feel lonely. It kind of implies you'd be alone, but I think you can be alone. You can be lonely in a crowd. I think you can be lonely with your spouse. I think you can feel lonely with your kids. I think the exception is your dog. Your dog will do something loving or hilarious and change your mood. After a few days, another thing popped up in Facebook, and I began to think the universe was trying to tell me something. It said, alone is not lonely. It's an opportunity to fall in love with the most important person you'll ever meet, yourself. Sue Morter wrote about vibrations in the January-February 2024 Unity magazine. Her article was entitled Unveiling the Power of Vibration. She talked about how the feelings of gratitude and love and harmony are higher vibrations than sad, anxious, or lonely vibrations. Therefore, by changing your perspective on feeling lonely, you can raise your vibration and be in a more accepting state. You can think, poor me, all alone in this restaurant, no one to talk to, all alone, poor, poor, pitiful me. Or you can think, how great it is to be here in peace and quiet. I can order whatever I want, I can eat in peace, I can order some cheesecake, take it back to the hotel. Nobody's going to say anything about it. So being in the restaurant alone doesn't mean you have to feel alone. My mother used to have a little song when I was feeling sorry for myself, and she would sing, pardon the voice, I'm a lonely little petunia in an onion patch, an onion patch, an onion patch. I'm a lonely little petunia in an onion patch, and I cry and cry all day. And by the time she got through the song, we'd both be laughing, and my attitude would be completely changed. And she got where if she saw me in a grumpy mood, she could go, I'm a... And that's all it took. We just, ha ha ha, and we were better. So sometimes it doesn't take much to kick it up a notch. There can be great healing in onlyness. Being alone can charge your batteries, especially if it's in a place of peace and beauty. I hear that we don't have the sound for this. But we all know what raindrops sound like. So there's 9 seconds of you imagining those raindrops going plop, 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 plop. Not many go to Bouchard Gardens in Victoria, British Columbia in November. It was cold. It was raining. It was quiet. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. And I was there by myself, but I was not alone or lonely. Being alone can be a blessing if you spend most of your time with a tribe of children or in a chaos of a workplace. Your mind needs to reset. Sleep can do that on a short-term basis. But taking several days or a week, how many of us has taken a week to be by ourselves? To be alone can alter your path. Being alone after a divorce or the death of someone dear gives you time to grieve in your own special way. It gives you time to heal and start a new chapter in your life. I have never been so lonely as when I moved to Galveston, Texas. I was in the midst of a divorce. I'd lost my job that I'd had for 10 years, and I had my heart and soul in it. I took my younger daughter with me. No, you're not the younger daughter. You're the 18-year-old that didn't want to go. Stayed in California. So you can do a little calculation there between 18 and the current status. I was far away from family and friends and in a new town with a new job. I was also battling a very painful disease called reactive arthritis. I felt like all my hopes and dreams had been smashed, like the waves crashing on the Galveston breakwater. F. Scott Fitzgerald said in The Great Gatsby, the loneliest moment in someone's life is when they are watching their whole world fall apart. All they can do is stare blankly. It's not the shattering itself that breaks you. It's the silence that follows. The quiet space where you realize there's nothing left to salvage. And in that moment, you know that you'll never be the same again. You'll build something new perhaps, but it'll never be what you lost. It wasn't easy in Galveston to hold gratitude. I had a job, I had a roof over my head, I had one of my daughters with me, and while my health was being challenged, I was still functional, and over time I could see small improvements. I was in Galveston 18 long, hard months, kind of like a prison sentence. I didn't think I could stay one more day. I longed for California and my family. I was flipping through a magazine and I saw an advertisement. Isn't it weird where your inspiration comes from? And it was this advertisement right here. And it said, it's a poem by William Wordsworth. From the green fields and yon azure sky, whatever its mission, the soft breeze can come to none more grateful than to me. Escaped from the vast city where I long had pined, a discontented sojourner, now free, free as a bird to settle where I will. Free as a bird to settle where I will. And I took my last dime and I got back to California. That was my inspiration. Only-ness can lead to creativity. You know I can't have a microphone without mentioning Chris Christopherson. And you're all old enough to know who I'm talking about. He left this plane of existence September 28th, 2024. He left a legacy of lyrics. 2 of his greatest songs were written while isolated on a Gulf of Mexico oil platform. He had only himself for company, and he turned to his songwriting skills to kill time. He wrote Me and Bobby McGee and Help Me Make It Through the Night. Whew, while alone on that oil rig. His creativity while alone set the stage for his entire career. Sometimes you can't take a week off or sit on an oil platform in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. You may have children to care for, or a spouse, or a job that's overwhelming. If you can't get away for a long period of time, get away for a few minutes. Walk away from the office during the break. Sit on the porch at dawn. Take an extra 10 minutes when you go grocery shopping and just sit in the car and meditate or listen to your favorite song. Find ways to be only. You come into this life alone and you're going to go out alone. I would dare to say that some of the most dramatic, life-changing moments have happened to you when you were alone. Celebrate your onlyness. Seek it out. Now, it is possible to be just plain lonely. When you recognize that state of being and nothing you've tried has snapped you out of it, then be aware of it. Long-term loneliness can be dangerous. You may need to seek time with a therapist or a spiritual leader or one of our chaplains or a friend. Maybe you need to reach out to people from your past or meet new people who will be part of your future. Loneliness can be like quicksand. You get used to it and you sink into it slowly. You think, I have the will to get out of this, until you're up to your eyeballs in it. Negative thoughts create a vortex that sucks you further and further into a low vibration. Leo Chambers, in his book Loneiness and Social Isolation, states, studies reveal a startling rise in loneliness across demographics, age groups, and geographical boundaries. It's a global crisis with far-reaching consequences. Factors include urbanization, technological dependence, and the erosion of traditional social structures. I didn't check the date of his book, but I think it was pre-COVID, so COVID is a whole other layer that created loneliness. He also said, as I'm trying to say, loneliness is a state of profound disconnection. It transcends mere physical isolation. It's the yearning for meaningful social bonds. It's the ache of feeling unseen and unheard. It's the ache of feeling unseen and unheard. It's different from solitude. Not substantiated, but I believe when Leo Chambers talked about loneliness being across demographics, that 3 of those demographics are teenagers, veterans, and other survivors of traumatic events, and people who have been on the planet for a while. Be kind to teenagers. They're a hormone factory, and they're in a no man's land between youth and adulthood. Their loneliness might be expressed in outrageous behavior or serious withdrawal. Realize that veterans and other survivors of dealing with traumatic events are dealing with things that we don't even want to imagine. Their loneliness may be expressed in angry outbursts, or they may be using drugs or alcohol to self-medicate. Volunteer or donate if you can to organizations that offer them support. And then there's us. Often our children have grown up and moved away. We don't have a lot of social outlets like we did when we were in school or at work. Our income may be limited. Maybe we can't drive anymore. Perhaps we've lost some of the wonder and joy we had when we were younger. Maybe life has beaten us up. We're the demographic who tends to be silently lonely. We seldom act out, and we can say and act like we are just fine. How are you doing, Haiti? I'm fine. Yeah, probably not. That's why it's so important that we connect to one another. I don't believe Jesus was lonely in the Garden of Gethsemane. I believe he was communing with his Father. I think that gives us a great example of how to be in a life or death situation and still feel onlyness and not loneliness. Perhaps onlyness is close to holiness, H-O-L-I-N-E-S-S, or holiness, W-H-O-L-E-L-I-N-E-S-S. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. A few weeks ago, I took a little hike into that valley. I can tell you it's better to go there in a state of onlyness than in a state of loneliness. I had to be at peace with whatever was going to happen. And remember, I am part of a much larger picture than I can see. And what are some of the solutions if you do feel lonely? Try asking someone to go to lunch or go to the movies. Even if they say no, don't give up, ask them again, or ask somebody else. Volunteer or pursue your life purpose. Reach out to old friends, make new friends. Take a vacation with a group. I did that when I went to Alaska, 21 of us. I didn't know those people, I knew like 3 people. But by the time the trip was over, I had 2 or 3 new friends. That's worth a try. Get out in the sun, even in the rain and the sun. We are so blessed to be on the Central Coast where we have sun almost all the time. Go to church. What an idea. Go to a church activity. Laugh. Laughter and loneliness are mortal enemies. I'm a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and the leader was talking about bird strikes. That's when a bird hits your window because there's no stickers or anything on it. And the leader said, "How do we prevent bird strikes?" And I said, "Don't let them join a union." Even if it's a groaner, laugh at it because that laughter is good for you. Listen to comedians. Hang with friends that make you laugh. Okay. Again, I'll bring up Christofferson. In his song, Beat the Devil, he said, lonely is more than a state of mind. I've given that a lot of thought over the years. How can loneliness be more than a state of mind? I think it's like being in a small brick room. No windows, no doors. You can't just snap your fingers and be out of the brick room. You can't just sit in the room and will yourself out. Will yourself out. There's will again. You can't will the bricks to go away. So when I say change loneliness to onlyness, I know I'm not asking something simple. If you're in that small room, you might have to figure out a way to knock out at least one brick. When you can see out, you realize there's something worthwhile beyond your room. And you start tearing down bricks one at a time with little moments of joy. And when you have that little moment of joy, then you have gratitude for that little moment of joy. And then you knock out another brick. You got a little bit more joy. You have to take action. You have to reach out for the connection. You recognize little glimmers of hope and strive for more moments of joy. You may not be able to knock down the bricks, all of the bricks, but you'll be able to come and go. I have a little saying, something to look forward to and something to remember. Do you have something in your calendar that makes you joyful about your future? Do you have lots of little connections to look back on to help you feel joyful about your past? You defeat loneliness with onlyness. In case I didn't make my point clear, onlyness is a higher vibration than loneliness. Onlyness can be a creative state and a healing state of being. Time being only is a good thing. If you're lonely, you must take action to raise your vibration. You can't just sit in your loneliness and will it to go away. You have to take action. You may still be alone, but experiencing your aloneness with joy, peace, and gratitude. Amen.